Hello and welcome back to the Diary of a Cartoonist. Well, we're in a graveyard this week, children. Why are we in a graveyard? Well, I'm glad you asked. Today, or this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to do a watercolour, or how to draw ghosts in watercolour. Now, this is kind of a technique that I think I've kind of discovered, I'm not sure. I thought, how can I draw ghosts in watercolour? I had a fiddle. I thought, if this thing comes off, I'm going to show it. If it doesn't, you'll never know. Well, it came off. So I'm going to show you how to draw two ghosts in a graveyard. The picture's called the Jolly Tars, which is an old expression. I'll explain that more in the video. And yeah, you'll learn another watercolour technique. Who wants to go and learn that? Hands up. You. That's enough. There's at least 7 of you. That'll do. Right, let's go, shall we? See how I can mess this one up.
Okay, let's get straight to it. Because I speeded it up slightly, the first bit I need to get it sort of in, the technique stuff. Here, I'm just wetting the whole page. I've penciled it in, I light boxed the image through. So I've drawn it first, then light boxed it through, and now I'm just soaking the whole area. I leave it dry slightly so there's a sheen on it, but it's still wet. And then I put the first layer on. Now this is cad yellow, very watered down. Cad yellow is cadmium yellow. Really get this water. The whole area gets one coating of this. Then with a wet brush, I start to cut out the moon shape. So I put the wet on there and then I damp it off with the brush and I keep soaking up all the white. So as the moon is now showing. The next stage is with cad yellow and a bit of, I think it's raw sienna. I start to build the background bushes and trees. So they're sort of more in, not so much for haze, but in the background, so they're very light. And I think it's just around about here that I dig into the ghost. Now, this is worth pointing out. The way that I'm going, I'll just let this carry on now whilst I'm sort of talking, so you'll see what's going on. I've had to speed it up because this took me over 2 days to do, so you can imagine you don't want it in real time. When I'm talking about how am I going to do ghosts, how am I going to portray a ghost, which is effectively a see-through thing, with a watercolour? So what I've done is, in the background, the colours that come through, I only give them 2 shades, 2 layers. And you'll see it. So I'm doing it now. I'm giving the ghost this little bit of grass. Now it's lighter than the bit to the right of it, as you'll see, because I just effectively watered it down slightly. And then I do it the same with the ghost on the other side. So whatever is behind them, it's a lighter version of what's around them. It'll become more apparent as the picture carries on, as the colours become more defined, stronger, shall we say. So anyway, like I said, I wasn't too sure whether this technique would work. It was something that I just was sitting there one night. I thought, I wonder if I could draw a ghost, because I was going to do it in Photoshop, and I'll do that again, and I will show you how to do that in Photoshop. But I thought, I wonder if I could do it in watercolour. And I thought about the possibilities and the techniques that I use, and I thought, I think it can. So that's why I did this picture. Just drew it, roughed it out, put it up here, and it was at this stage that I'm doing the sky, trying to get some tonal values, that it really fell apart for me. I thought, oh God, this isn't working. I'm going to throw this away. No, I'm not happy. I see I'm damping around here, trying to fiddle and try and do something with it, and it's just not working. I thought, I'm gonna scrap this. I'll do a different video. They'll never know. Like I said at the beginning, you'll never know. If it goes wrong, you'll never know. If it goes right, you'll know. But something inside of me stopped me from tearing it off the drawing board and just throwing it apart. Maybe I knew at this point I was going to be putting lots of leaves up there, and they may very well help out. So there was a little voice at the back of my head said, keep going, keep going. So I did. And you'll notice here, there's an example. I've started to do the first layer of the monuments, the gravestones and the crosses and what have you. And when it came to the point where it went from behind the ghost into the ghost, I just put a lot more water into the mix and it lightened it up. So this whole picture is all about layers, more and more and more layers. Right, so whilst it's all going on now, because obviously you can imagine there's a lot of gravestones and things like that to do. There's a little church there that I'm doing now. It's all going to be in various layers, so it's going to take a little bit of time to do. So I'm going to talk to you about the jolly tars, like I mentioned at the very beginning when I was in the graveyard and pretending not to get noticed. Now, I wasn't out there picking a plot for future reference. No, I'm going to be here for a long time yet, I hope. Now, the jolly tars is an old expression. Now, these two sailors in this picture, as that's what they are, they would have been from around about the late 1600s, 1700s. And when the sailors used to go to sea, obviously you can imagine running around on deck with all sorts of potential storms and goodness knows what else. They'd get very wet and they didn't take changes of clothes in their suitcase and another pair of socks and all that sort of stuff. These were generally poor people who were either volunteered to go into the Navy or were press ganged into it. And so what they do is they would cover their tops, their clothes, in tar. And tar would make them waterproof. And so they just used to be referred to as tars. It was another expression for the fishermen, the seamen, so they're called tars. And as time went by, whenever you catch them having a laugh and a joke, they were just referred to as jolly tars. So I just called this picture the two jolly tars. Right, so what else can we say? Well, probably not a huge amount, actually. I should probably sort of have a little bit of music here and there because a lot of this stuff is going to be, quite repetitive, actually. I see a lot of watercolour tutorials from other artists on this here YouTube, and they don't talk at all. They just literally show you their paintings, and I'm quite happy to sit and do that. It's very, very relaxing and calming. And maybe a lot of them don't speak English. I don't know. There could be any number of reasons for it. But this little bit that's coming on now, this is where the building up of the layers will start to define the shape of the ghosts. It's almost like my brother went to art college. I never went to art college, but my brother went to art college, and he came back one day, and they'd done this drawing in negative space, I think is what they called it. And what they were doing was they were drawing everything but, like you'd have a table, chairs, a potted plant, maybe even a bit of a cooker, a kitchen scene, but they weren't drawing the cooker, they weren't drawing the shelving, they weren't drawing the table or the chairs. They were drawing all the space in between those things. It was drawing negative space. So it's very much like that, I guess, with this. When I'm building up the layers, I'm drawing the negative space around the ghosts. See? Now, that's what I think I'm doing. Aha, now here we go. I've just done the second and final layer for the grasses on the ghost. Now the grass around it will have more and more and more layers. Not more and more and more, a few more layers. And they will then punch the ghosts out, because nothing will have a black outline around it except the ghosts. Ooh, a little bit of sunlight there, sorry about that, because I can't help it. It just comes across the page. It's difficult to draw in between the sunshine breaking through the continual clouds that this damn country I live in seems to exist on. So here's their gravestone. Now at the moment it's just one single shade, but as it goes on I'll start to build up the shades around that, and that'll also bring them out. So yeah, that's pretty much that. Building up some layers on the little pathway. Now the other thing here is when I'm doing the tree. Yeah, I'll talk about the tree in a second. When I first started doing it, initially it was going to be nighttime, so it was all shades of blue. But for some reason, and don't ask me why, but for some reason, I just started doing the yellows. And so now I'm not too sure whether it's the sun's gone down and the moon's coming up, or the moon's going down and the sun's about to come up. So it's in that kind of like area of the day that the ghosties and ghoulies come out, I guess. So yes, there we go. So there's that. Now the tree, for those of you who've seen my cartoon strips, whenever I draw a tree, I tend to draw them in Photoshop. Don't draw them on the actual page. They're done in Photoshop. And I have this technique where I just drop the colour in, and then with a very thin line, I give these stripy bits on the tree. Well, I like doing my trees that way. This is my way of doing trees. So I literally drew the lines by using negative space. And that's how I did it with the tree. There's a couple of trees over the other side. I won't be showing you, I don't think, how I do all of them. You see the one tree, how that technique's done, and the other trees, it's just more of the same. So I've cut the video down a little bit by doing stuff like that. Hope you don't mind. You do still get all the techniques. It's just that it's bit by bit by bit. You can see I've done it now. I also, I'm sorry about this, but I put in all the branches, and it wasn't until after I'd done them I thought, oh damn, I was supposed to have filmed that. What an old idiot I am. So I completely forgot that. So now what I'm doing is I'm doing the next layer. Now I'm using a mixture of watercolour and gouache. Some people call it gouache. I call it gouache. I don't know what's right, but it works for me. So gouache. Now gouache is very strong. It's very heavily pigmented. If you're doing stuff to sell, doing it professionally, it has to have a heavy, strong pigment. Otherwise, when it goes in the sunlight, it fades. So gouache is very good to have a strong pigmentation on it. And when I did this, I gave it a very, very dark colour. So what I got is burnt umber and raw sienna, and I mixed into a little bit of Payne's grey. And I gave it this very dark colour. When it first went on, I thought, oh my God, that's too dark. But then as the tree went down, as I carried on going down, I thought, no, I think I've made a happy mistake. As Bob Ross would say, you've made a happiest mistake. There's squirrels everywhere. He liked his happy mistakes, did Bob Ross. And sometimes they work out really nicely. So there you go. So that's that little part of it. And once again, I won't be doing the other tree. You see it, here. And now you can see both trees. Now, this is what I meant by the sky now isn't a problem. Whereas it was horrible before. I hated it with a passion. Now, it's actually quite nice. Because I've just got some Payne's grey and I think some burnt umber, but more Payne's grey than anything. And I've dropped a bit of black in there as well. And I'm just doing the first layer of the leaves on the top, and then doing the smaller leaves on the branches, just in that burnt umber and Payne's grey and a little bit of, I think it's lamp black, I think it's called. So that's what I'm doing there. And I will go into the leaves with more black to give that a little bit more solid. But you can see now the picture's starting to come to life. There's a lot more going on with the leaves and everything. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shut the hell up. Oh, actually, no, here. This is white. It's just called Brilliant White. I dip the brush directly into the tube of paint, and I do these little white dots. I do them on my Photoshop, and I just really like them. I don't know what they are. They don't signify anything. They just seem to look right for me. Then we come into the foreground where I wanted to punch out the midground a little bit more. So I put these large blades of grass coming up, and that acts as a kind of a frame, a bit more realistic. So it's almost like you're down quite low looking through the grass at them, and this grass is just poking up in front of you. And I've done that with hooker's green, which is a green that on its own isn't a very nice one, but if you mix it with other things, it can make nice colours. So there's hooker's green and Payne's grey, and that gives it a very, very dark green. I did go over with the second colour, and now I'm working on probably the third and final stage with the actual grass, which is bringing it into the darker areas. So there's a little bit of light on the top, differentiating between the undulating hills, hillocks, and dimmocks, and God knows what else of an old graveyard. Now, with the shading I'm doing on the grass here, that is my shadow colour, which I think I've told you before in the past. It's cobalt blue, and I think in this one it's just a vermilion, or a kind of a red, an orangey red, and that gives it a shadow. For whatever colour it goes on top of, it gives you the shadow for that colour. So the colour I'm doing here is exactly the same for the gravestone as it is for everything else. Right, so that's the picture almost finished. I'm now just going to take the, let me see if I can take the tape off, and I'm going to ink it. So whilst I'm doing the inking, I definitely will say thank you for coming along for this tutorial. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't know what we're doing next time, but it'll be exciting. And we'll just do the inking now and give you a little bit of music, and I'll see you in the next video. And until then, thanks for your time, and bye-bye for now. It's me! I'm back again. There's one thing I forgot to mention. When I'm doing the inking of these characters, I normally do very like thick and thin lines and give it a bit of a stylized look, my own look, shall we say. But when it came down to it, I thought, no, the ghosts have to be very, very simple. Don't detract from what they are. So it's just a very, very thin line. And that's it. I just forgot to mention that bit. So here we are at the end. Just sign it now. And by magic, I shall show. There's the finished picture. Gosh, look at that. I wish I could draw like that. Oh, hang about. I can. Okay, so once again, all that's left to do is for me to say thank you very much for your time. Really hope you enjoyed it. I will do some more of these in the future because I think they're jolly good fun. So all that's left for me to do once again is to say thank you for your time, and I shall see you on the next video. And until then, bye-bye for now.